Sweetheart, did you use the dolphin safe tuner this time?
Dolphin safe all the way, honey.
We always use the dolphin safe.
Oh, you gotta love those dolphins. Although they're pretty tasty, too.
So, where'd you two meet?
It actually was at a UFO conference.
Flying saucers. Interesting. Wouldn't have thought you folks would have been into that.
Well, it's not me so much as Laura. She's quite the new ager. I mean, she's into those magnetic bracelets and crystals and mood rings, what have you. I mean, she's, God bless her, she's a sucker for all that stuff.
Well, I wouldn't have guessed that, would you?
Mm-hmm.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Most Unwanted, an X-Files podcast. I'm Chex and I'm joined, as ever, to talk about the X-Files by Luke Costin.
Hi, how's it going?
Yeah, not so bad. How about yourself?
I'm not doing too bad. I feel like we've got a guest watching the live production at the moment.
We're joined by Luke's cat, Shelley. So if you hear any meows or purrs, it's not Luke. He's not really comfortable. it's
my new persona, or fursona, as I hear it's called.
How you doing, Luke? How's life?
I'm not too bad. I've got to be honest. I'm going to say this now, and this will apply for the next 3 episodes.
Oh my god,
I'm a bit run down this week.
You've had a busy weekend.
Yeah, busy weekend. Like work's been really busy. We did. This is all like stuff that other people won't know about, but we did D&D. That took a lot of planning, and then the weekend has been like full of stuff as well. And it's like I'm looking forward to. I've got tomorrow off. I'm looking forward to that to just do nothing.
Nice.
We might be going to Birmingham, but we'll see.
So you are doing something,
maybe.
I mean, yeah, it's been a bit of a wild one. It's suddenly turned winter here in the UK.
Yeah.
Like, it was so wild. Like, it was fine. I think it was last Sunday, and it was an absolutely fine day. And then we went outside like an hour later, and it was freezing.
Yeah.
And then the snow came, and it's just been...
It's crazy how quickly it started to happen, because it was literally, it was just like normal temperatures, and then like, there's the meowing, as you can hear.
Thanks for ruining that take, Shelley. We're going to start that all over again.
Nah, she could stay in. But yeah, literally, it's been a case of we would... it's been normal temperature, and then all of a sudden it was like -1.
Yeah.
Like the very next day, and it's like, how has this happened? Like, but that's weather.
But yeah, thank God climate change isn't a thing.
Yeah, I don't know what people are all moaning about. I don't know why we're having conferences about it. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the battles we're struggling with at the moment. Is like whether how much we record before the snow hits us again. So,
well, yeah, I mean, how many times do we say this? But the fact that we're set up now to record remotely is a little bit of a godsend.
Yeah,
because
it's handy.
The snow is that type of thing that would have... Oh, I do apologise. That is me. The snow is that the type of thing that would have, for sure, stopped us in the past, and now it's not too bad. So, although we were talking off air, and it does look like we might have to have a Christmas break, because with me going to New York soon, and then with Christmas and New Year, I don't know, I mean, to be fair, we usually have a Christmas break anyway, so maybe it might have to be extended a week. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
we'll see how the recording schedule goes.
Yeah, we're making no promises or anything yet. We're just seeing. And
I'm not spending a day in New York recording. I'm not doing it, Luke.
Yeah,
I'm not doing it. I'm going to the Rockefeller Center.
I mean, if you were dedicated to the time, what would the time difference be? It's like 6 hours, isn't it?
I think it's 5. It's 5, and I'd be 5 hours behind. Yeah. I mean, you know what? It's going to be fun. I'm going to see if I can see any X-Files sites.
Well, yeah, there's plenty of places to visit.
We got it. I don't know whether we spoke about this. I can't remember for the life of me who it is. So I do apologise. I will find out later. But we did get a tweet when we mentioned like X-Files locations, and it had a map of all the X-Files spots that you can visit around America. And that was so awesome. I just sat there for ages clicking on everything.
Going through it. Yeah, it was like an interactive map.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Really good, yeah.
I do apologise, I can't remember who it was that sent it in. But yeah, so I'll tell you one good thing. about the winter. It's brilliant for watching X-Files.
It is.
Because a nice cozy day, just wrapped up, pop the X-Files on. You can just enjoy yourself. And that's what I did when I watched this episode, titled Arcadia. So this week, we'll be looking at Season 6, Episode 15 of The X-Files, titled Arcadia. We are very close to the end of this season.
Pretty much,
As each season passes, it gets faster and faster.
Yeah, we seem to fly through them now. I was looking today. We've only got like 80-something episodes left until the end of the X-Files.
That's crazy. That is insane. We've got another movie, haven't we, as well?
There's a film that's included in like the 80 that they put, because I use this app called, this is very boring, but I use this app that's, I can't remember what it's called now, actually, Next Episode.
Okay.
And that like tracks like what episode you've watched and stuff like that. And yeah, I think that's included as one of them. And it said, it was something like 83 or something like that.
Okay.
Something along those lines, and it's,
Still plenty more episodes from us to come, guys. Don't worry about that. This episode, though, the one that we're talking about today, was directed by Michael Watkins and written by Daniel Arkin. Originally aired March 7th, 1999. Do you want to get straight into the plot?
Yeah, we'll get straight into it.
Let's do it. So, this whole episode takes place... it's the falls of Arcadia. But basically, it is a closed-off community, I suppose you'd call it.
Yeah.
Estate.
They call it a planned community, don't they, or something?
Yeah.
In this.
So, yeah, well, I will get into... I've got quite a few notes later about planned community and why it was quite interesting to me, because it's not something we really have over here.
I don't think we have these kind of things. You do have like people who have got like gated off houses, but it tends to just be houses, doesn't it? Like there's not like
I'm sure there are planned communities. Maybe we're just not classy enough to know about them. Yeah. We're the people that they're keeping out.
We're the poor people.
So yeah, but we start off in this little planned community. And we see, it's very idyllic. We see a guy driving home and his neighbours, like they're they're mowing the lawn and they're waving as he drives past. And it's your typical sort of, it's almost like a Christmas film.
Yeah, exactly. And whenever you see something where it's X-Files and everyone's being super friendly, you're like, are these like a satanic cult or something? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, it does get that vibe, doesn't it? Like when things are too good, it's definitely going wrong in X-Files. So the guy that's driving in Arcadia, who's getting all like these waves, his name's Dave Klein, and he's basically we learn from certain interactions with neighbours and sort of like making sure that he like gets his lawn to like mowed to the exact millimetre and paints his post box the exact right colour.
The exact colour of like cream or something. That. Pedantic.
And it's all smiles, it's all falsities until he gets into his house and sort of basically just slags off the entire community to his wife. He's very unhappy and he doesn't like the sort of the Nazi-esque regime that's going on where he has to like fall in line or he gets criticised and judged. He does have a package from an unknown sender. And it turns out, and I had to look up what this was called, it's a whirligig.
A whirligig, yeah. They do mention that. I've not heard of it before, but it's kind of just like a
windmill that makes something do something.
Do something, yeah.
So yeah, he has a whirligig, which is like the wind blows it and he's like a lumberjack.
Yeah.
Lumberjack starts cutting some wood, which he immediately likes and puts outside. Which that's going to cause issues. Like it's not up to code.
Yeah. And they're very extensive list of codes anyway.
Yeah. And so as he's lying in bed that night, you hear the whirligig sort of ticking and clicking. Suddenly stops, and then all of a sudden he gets up. I don't know whether you can hear Intruder, but he certainly does.
Yeah.
And as he goes to explore, we see a dark figure, a large dark figure in the house. Basically, you can't really see what it is, it's just eyes.
Pretty much throughout the entire episode, you don't see what it is, really.
I'm going to say right now, I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
I think really works for this monster, because you don't really need to. It's like this sort of slimy, dark thing. And this thing goes to town and just brutalizes him.
Pretty much, yeah.
And then we hear his wife screaming into the night, as we assume it attacks her as well. And that goes into the intro. What did you think of this?
I really like the setup of it, because it was like this. Obviously, from the intro, you know that it's not all as it seems. Something's going to go wrong, but it's that like I always like when there's this seemingly perfect like place, but there's like a as Mulder says later on, a dark underbelly to it. And I always like those type of stories, because you're constantly trying to figure out what is going on, who's, you know, what's causing these problems here. And then, the setup was really intriguing.
Yeah, I completely agree. I enjoyed the sort of look at the monster, like I said, throughout the episode. I thought this was a good intro. Nothing sold me on the intro more than the first scene when we got back from the intro sequence.
Yeah, exactly. I put the same thing.
We see Mulder and Scully pull up, and we see Mulder get out of the car with his jumper tied around his neck.
In his Lacoste polo neck shirt. And
he's just loving it. Anytime he gets to play make-believe, he loves it. And
I got so many vibes of, do you know, we always talk about the scene in... is it Humbug?
Humbug, yeah.
Where he's standing there just like, they had so many vibes of that.
You know what I think that is? I think the writers of the show have all tapped into, by now anyway, the idea of it's just really funny how Mulder sees himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think at the start, especially season 1, there is this kind of, he's this cool guy that knows things and like figures things out. And it's not until season 2 and later, I think, and especially like more coming up towards now, this season especially, where I think all the writers come to the show going, Mulder's not a cool guy. Mulder thinks he's a cool guy.
That's the vibe of every episode now.
And that's brilliant. Yeah. That's exactly, because liking UFOs and the Loch Ness Monster isn't a cool thing, but it's cool to him.
Yeah.
And so I think they really locked into the fact of how funny it is to see Mulder when his idea of what's cool and what's not. I just think is great.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's funny as well, because obviously they cast Duchovny for his looks as well. But it's interesting that you have this character who is quite a bit of a nerd. He's kind of tactless in like how he's talking to people and stuff like that. But when you look at it, he's quite a good-looking guy. So he's very, very against type. But yeah, it's interesting. But
so we get with we find out that Mulder and Scully are going undercover, and they're playing Rob and Laura Petrie. And everyone calls them Petrie, but it's after Petrie. I love the Scully line of like, I'm choosing the names next time.
Yeah. I wonder where he got the idea for that name. That's right.
Oh, it's a jab at Scully, isn't it?
Yeah.
Petri dish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's so we see them pull up and they start to move in, and throughout we get a lot of indications of them being like the outsiders. Yeah. People coming over to visit and being like super sickly nice and like really over the top. But they're very much, like, I think there's a scene where Mulder tries to put out a basketball hoop in the front yard, and it basically gets told, no this isn't part. You can't do this.
Well, even after this, like during this scene, they get told, "Oh, you've got to have moved in by 6."
Yes.
And it's like, "Oh, you've got an hour." So the entire town comes out to get them moved in.
Yeah,
and it's like, what is going on here? And this is where we start seeing the hints of, there's these rules and regulations they have to follow.
And in that same scene, like obviously Scully's got all of her equipment under the pretense of dishes, and Big Mike just throws them over his shoulder. Whoa!
That sort of like comedy, sort of buffoon.
But again, that little comedy moment has this sort of dark tone of how apologetic he is about it, because he looks scared almost that he's done wrong, and that people are going to see him.
Yeah, exactly. He's made this mistake, and like that's going to ostracize it. I really like with this episode, it's constantly this. Obviously, they're doing it because there's this monster that's going to kill them if you go wrong. But really, you can tell with the writer that he's just like making a commentary on that kind of community, on like how there's this
exactly that. So that's the exact vibe that I picked up from, which I was going to mention it later, but For sure, I think that's what it is, because the beauty, unless you're in the, because those communities do exist, and they certainly are. There are some communities like that where you have to get your lawn within a certain millimeter, and you know what I mean. That's the way you got to live. And if you live in those, there's nothing wrong with that. And actually, I imagine it can be quite idyllic if you because it's a perfect little community. But I think the social commentary is how alien this community is to anyone outside them. Yeah. And I think that's brilliant. Yeah. Someone's come in and gone, like, this is a story about a guy that looks for aliens. What's alien to me? Yeah. I'll tell you what's alien to me. A weird community that tells me I can't play basketball in my own front garden.
Yeah, exactly. It's this. I wouldn't be surprised if, like, the writer had an issue with a neighbour or something. I mean, everyone's done this, had this before, where a neighbour, like, encroaches.
Oh, even was in part of one of these communities himself.
Yeah.
And he just didn't get along with it.
Yeah, and you have these, like, sort of problems between them and stuff. And I think everyone's been through that, so it's a very relatable thing as well, of, like, neighbour issues and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it does also play into those sort of, like, alien show stereotypes of, like, familiar but not quite. Like, again, we're jumping around the episode, but there's a scene later on where Mulder and Scully have dinner with the neighbours, and it just all feels off. Like, the interactions even, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Because it's like, you can tell that they're obviously real people, but they're, like, so controlled and trying to sort of manage what they do. Yeah. It just feels weird. And that, even though there's nothing to do with aliens, it fits really well in that theme. Do you know what I mean?
It feels like they're trying to, like, censor themselves before they say things. So there's always this, like, I really like the scene, but we'll talk about it later as well.
So we'll get to it. Mulder and Scully are they basically move in to the former home of the couple we saw in the intro. And as they get in, they start investigating. They find out that the house has been cleaned top to bottom, and they do find, like, a sludge material, which they think is blood.
Yeah. Because it's, like, red.
It's on the fan, isn't it? Yeah. But it's like this sort of, like, oily red type thing. And they assume it's blood. They say to send that off to forensics. But mostly, I think the best part about this scene, like, we get the sort of the ideas of, like, what the episode's going to be about. But the best part about the scene is Mulder and Scully playing make-believe, and how much Scully is completely against it almost, because it's just, she doesn't have time for this, whereas Mulder just plays up to it.
I think it's because Mulder stops this as soon as he realises, there's a sludge monster involved. Yeah. Like, as soon as he realises it's an X-File, he's invested. But I think for this, he's just like, this is just a normal case. Why are we bothering with this? So he's like, he's just, not invested. So he's trying to make fun himself, pretty much.
And it's fun for the audience as well, because you do get, like, this little glimpse into what life might be like if Mulder and Scully got together. Like, there's one, and it's such an innocuous scene, but when Mulder takes off his, like, jumper and just throws it across the room, and Scully gives this look, and it's just like, I don't know why, I really liked that, because it was like a glimpse into the future, maybe. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it definitely feels like, especially with this is like a shipper's dream, because this is them 5 years in the future after they've been married. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, where Scully's complaining that he's not put the toilet seat down again.
Yeah. And it was topped off brilliantly by Scully, Mulder calling Scully. Yeah. And Scully having to correct them and saying, no, we're going by Rob and Laura here. And then Mulder going in for a kiss and lying on the bed as if to go to sleep. And Scully going, Mulder, your name's Mulder, and you're sleeping on the sofa.
It did make me wonder as well, though, if they were like, if they have to sleep separately, do you reckon there'd be some kind of, like, them, like, checking in on them or something like that? I thought there might be a scene of them somebody...
Someone's looking through the window.
Yeah, like, and going, hang on a bit, they're not like...
I mean, it's not that out of the question that the guy, not even just the guy, anyone sleeps on the sofa. There's been a bit of a domestic, do you know what I mean?
So, yeah, true. Yeah, so I suppose they could explain that away.
Yeah. They do get a visitor that night before, which is Big Mike, who's brought round his entire china dishes.
To make up for it, yeah.
To make up. So again, you get this impression of, like, why is he so scared about what they think? But he introduced himself as Big Mike. He also tells them that he's a vet, which will be important later on. And they basically say to him that he offers to, like, if they need he's basically just being nice.
Yeah,
in the
really
off,
nice,
he says if you need if you want a dog or something like that, come to me. So he is being nice. But the fact that he's a vet does come into play later on.
Was it in this bit as well where because Mulder and Scully are doing their certain bits and pieces. I wrote a note down, and I don't know if it was here or later on, but there's a bit where they're like playing acting again, and Mulder just is like,
Woman, get back in here and make me a sandwich. Did I not make myself clear?
I think that was the point where I was like, oh, this is going to be a fun episode.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Like,
yeah, it's just Mulder playing about. So again, I hadn't thought about that, but you are spot on. If it's with regards to him not taking the case seriously.
Yeah.
And as soon as it does, it stops.
Yeah.
We get a really interesting scene about this meeting between the homeowners association and Big Mike's there. I am sorry, I don't remember many people's names in this one. I do apologise.
There was Big Mike. The leader had a name.
Gene, I believe. Gene.
Was he the leader?
I think he was the leader, yeah. And there's another guy, the neighbour, but I can't remember his name.
I don't know his first name. They call them like they begin with S, and it's Shoot.
Is it Schroeder?
Schroeder, that's it. Yeah. Schroeder.
Yeah, I've got the names here. So we've got Win Schroeder.
Yeah. Win, that's it. Yeah.
It was a tough one because there were so many characters, and like the names wasn't really important.
Not
I
really.
didn't
No,
make a note.
I don't think so. No.
But anyway, we see this meeting, and we see Big Mike basically say, listen, we've gone through a lot of residents at the moment. It keeps happening. Oh, and by the way, Mulder and Scully do mention that it keeps happening here and people keep disappearing.
Yeah.
And nobody in the community says anything.
Yeah, they're sort of in complete denial that anyone else has lived there, yeah.
So Big Mike says, well, maybe we should tell these guys about what happens instead of keeping them in the dark. And the Homeowners Association meeting basically says, yeah, that's a good idea. We'll take that into consideration. And as soon as Big Mike's back's turned, basically order a hit on him.
Yeah, they're planning to bump him off, pretty much.
Yeah, so Gene calls him a weak link that needs to be dealt with.
Which, again, sounds very Nazi.
Yes, yeah, it certainly does. But, I mean, he follows through because the next night, Big Mike disappears.
Yeah.
And we know this because as Mulder and Scully are sort of talking to the neighbours, talking to Schroeder, Schroeder says that he's gone away on business, even though Mulder and Scully know he's a vet and doesn't. Why would he travel?
To which his answer is, it's vet business. Which is the ultimate cop-out. We do see as well, like at the scene before, it's there's something to do with the light when the light's broken or something like that. Because his light breaks
and he panics and stuff.
Cuts his hand trying to change the light and stuff like that, and then we seemingly see him get attacked by this monster, and we think, oh, he's been killed, like the Kleins. But yeah, it's I also liked in that part as well. He's watching a documentary about tribes and like how tribes work, and it's like, oh, they have to
explains the community basically.
Yeah, explaining that like you have to fit into tribes norms to and I was like, that's quite interesting how that, like, you know, they're trying to show the parallels here.
Yeah,
how tribal this like seemingly nice.
And if you don't fit into the norms, you are the weak link.
Yeah, ostracized.
Yeah,
in this case, murdered.
Murdered by a big ooey gooey monster.
There's some interesting names that what they call this in production, but we'll get to that.
Schroeder, however, does invite both Mulder and Scully or Rob and Laura to dinner. And it's like this is what we were saying before. It's a very strange, very tense dinner where Mulder, I like the fact that Mulder basically calls them out on things, but he just treads that line of like, he calls him a liar, says, I don't think you're telling the truth. But then, like, sort of laughs it off as if he's not calling him a liar. And I like this. He basically just makes them as uncomfortable as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
But the whole scene's very sort of tense in a weird sort of way, as tense as a dinner can be.
Well, it's interesting how, like, Mulder and Scully basically, they were doing an interrogation without revealing the fact that they're agents.
Yeah.
Like, it was, they were using the knowledge that they have from, like, talking to Mike and stuff that they'd researched, to basically just try and figure out what was going on. But I really enjoyed this scene because it was them just interrogating them. But sorry, I'm just it's hard to concentrate when the cat's running in front of you. But Yes, so they're using this, and you can tell there's uncomfortableness between the two sides. But I thought it was interesting how they played it.
It's a fun little scene, and it's made all the more fun. I love Mulder admitting that he's into UFOs, and then saying, "Well, not as much as Scully." And Scully is the real maniac in this relationship.
Loves crystals and all this stuff. Which she you can tell she's livid.
Scully's face is a picture. It's so great, and she just has to accept it and just agree to everything.
Like, yeah, that's me.
But later on, and you could tell Schroeder's wife, again, I can't remember her name, she does get uncomfortable a lot through this and decides to go for a walk, take the dog for a walk. And Scully goes with her. And on this walk, the dog gets pretty agitated. It's like a little, I don't even know what it is, chihuahua type thing.
Yeah, it's like a little chihuahua dog, yeah.
And the dog gets really agitated.
Because that's another thing they mention as well, isn't it? That any pets have to be under a certain weight.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's so wild. I'm surprised pets are allowed in a place like that. I don't know, that seems against the rules, taking your pet for a walk, I don't know. But they take this little dog for a walk, and Scully notices that she's taken them past Mike's house, and it's almost like she wants to tell them. It's she's definitely not as strict and as convinced by this regime as everybody else seems to be.
I get the feeling as well, she must have been in it. I think she's been there from the beginning, and she's probably just tired of it as well. After a while, you probably are just sick of...
Well, they say that, don't they? Most of the people living there are lifers.
Yeah.
Because people can't acclimatise when they come in.
Yeah.
But the dog ends up, running down a storm drain.
Yeah. I've only seen these in, America, so obviously I've seen it in It, famously, the storm drain.
Yeah.
Which was kind of the vibe I was getting from this bit. We don't have those kind of storm drains, do we? Everything's, grated in this country.
Yeah.
So it seems wild that there's just an open, sort of thing into the sewer. I'm like, what is that? That's mental. But
That's all. It wouldn't go into the sewer, would it? It's a storm drain, so wouldn't it just be like a runoff of water?
I guess it, yeah. So, I don't know where it goes to eventually. It will eventually go into a sewer, but I don't know. Yeah.
We need a plumber, an American plumber, to get onto the show. We'll interview him about the storm drains.
Yeah, we'll find out about the intricacies of why storm drains are the way.
That's what the fans are asking for.
Yeah.
So the dog goes into the storm drain. You hear him whimpering and whatnot. Scully starts looking for it. And she finds the pendant that Big Mike was wearing the day before, the veterinary. I don't even know.
It's like a medical thing, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like the snakes around, I don't know what it's called. It has a special name, but it's like a medical symbol.
Yeah. And so she grabs that, and the dog comes out, scared, flies out, as if it's seen something, and it's got all of this same substance on the dog's face, which is weird, to say the least.
Yeah.
And so we get I'll try and fly through the next few scenes a little bit. We do get this weird thing of them not knowing Mulder and Scully not really understanding what's going on. They know something's weird and wrong about this place. Mulder starts suspecting that it's people being killed because they're not towing in line.
Yeah.
To which he basically just starts pushing it as much as he can. Kicking over his own postbox and just waiting for someone to come fix it and stuff like that.
I like the little flamingo he sticks in the lawn.
Yeah, the flamingo,
well.
and that disappears.
Yeah.
And there's a whole scene where he spends 4 hours looking out the window and then has to go take a leak.
Yeah.
And then as he takes a leak, he comes back and they're gone.
It's gone, yeah. As soon as and then he ups the ante, doesn't he, of the night?
Yeah. But they're just testing out these theories, and you can tell Mulder, again, because he doesn't know this is an X-File, he's just pushing this as far as he can go, and he's almost playing this like a game.
Yeah.
Which is very fun to watch. There was a moment when I thought he was going to piss into a carton of orange juice, and I was like, no, Mulder, please don't. He does look at it like,
I did like, he's just... I like how manic he was in this part as well, where he just starts pulling the thing down, chucking Tropicana over it and stuff like that.
And we also get Scully saying that the blood samples aren't actually blood. They're just, it's basically 200 different substances. It's just basically garbage, is what she says.
Yeah.
Which is when I started to think, was it It's because they do mention a landfill. It
Yeah.
was built on top of a landfill. I thought it was going to be like a garbage monster, which I suppose it kind of is, but they do have a technical term.
Yeah, I think it's made from the garbage, but like
Made from the land it's on.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you reckon that's
yeah,
it?
I think so. Yeah. But I find that weird as well that it's built on top of a landfill. Surely that's not a good idea, is it? Like,
I mean, I wouldn't have thought so, but then I don't know, maybe.
I'm running out of places to build, I guess. So on top of a dump.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it just feel like it would smell.
Because they kept saying, oh, there's like methane gas like coming out.
It comes up from the ground.
And
Yeah,
it's like that's stick of eggs. In it?
Mulder gets a message in the mailbox after it gets fixed saying, be like the others before it goes dark. And so Mulder takes this warning and starts playing basketball as soon as it gets dark. To which horrifies the other neighbours.
Yeah.
And it's like he's murdering somebody the way Schroeder and his wife come out and his wife's pleading, you've got to stop him, you've got to stop him.
Yeah.
So this sort of gave me the idea that maybe they're not directly responsible, they're just at the whim of this monster. They understand what the monster is and they don't want to anger it or...
Yeah. I suppose to them, until we find out what it is later on, they see it as this kind of thing that just watches over the community for some reason.
Yeah. And so during this sort of frantic attempt to stop Mulder from playing basketball, Schroeder, from the ground, we see like the ground tear up and this something come out and we hear Mrs. Schroeder scream. And as Mulder goes, and this is where Mulder goes into X-Files mode, he knows something's there.
Yeah.
And he sees the monster. But luckily, Mrs. Schroeder gets away. But they all notice that the light outside of Schroeder's house has gone out.
Broken, yeah, exactly. So maybe they're being bumped off as well now, which, I mean, later on we see that Mr. Schroeder is not happy about this at all, especially with what he seemed to have sacrificed and stuff like that. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's it's very tense, and we do to finish this scene off. We do get like this, like it's an interesting scene of like them dragging the basketball hoops back into the. Well, we think it's Mulder. They do this quite well because that scene finishes. Then we see that a person dragging the basketball hoop into the garage.
Yeah, we don't actually
see. We assume it's Mulder because why wouldn't it be? We've just seen the legs, and then we see Scully enter the house. And as she explores the house, she thinks someone's in the building. We think it's Mulder because we've seen him to go back into the house. It's actually, and then it cuts back to Mulder, who's still by the gate.
Yeah.
So then that goes to us. Oh, who took the basketball hoop in?
Yeah.
We find out it's Big Mike, who's still alive, who looks awful. He's bloodied up, and he's trying to save Scully basically by helping her keep in line.
Yeah, and he kind of like puts her in the. Is this when Scully comes back and she's in the? She gets put in the cupboard basically.
Yeah. So I mean, he sort of explains what's going on. He explains that he hit the light of the Schroeders, hoping that they take them instead of him.
Yeah.
But he knows that they did it to him, so he doesn't care.
Yeah.
He explains that they've got to conform, that otherwise this thing will come out and get them overnight. And then this thing does attack, to which he throws her into like a closet, barricades her in, and then just very bravely takes this monster on.
Yeah, on his own, and
we see it all from Scully's point of view, where like blood's just flying everywhere as Scully just watches on.
Yeah. It's
Great scene.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I like this twist.
And this is what. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah. This is where you get to see like the monster for real for the first time as well.
Yeah, and even though then it's still fairly brief, you don't actually see it fully like.
It's almost like reflected. Have you ever seen Attack the Block?
Yeah.
The Edgar Wright film.
Yeah.
Very much similar to that. You know how those like dogs are like, or the aliens are like so black that it's like almost unseeable. It's really strange.
What's it called? That Vanta Black, is it?
Yes.
Like, seeing an object in that is strange.
It is really weird.
But yeah, it's kind of like that, isn't it?
Just give me 2 seconds.
I was going to grab a picture as well because I think this would be funny. Guest on the show. Right there, show. I'll put on. I might put it on the thingy and just say special guest this week.
how are we doing for time?
Right,
I mean, it's hard. It's hard.
40 at the moment, but
We've got a lot out, haven't we? As well?
So
So the next morning, I'm not actually sure if this happens the next morning or the night of, but we do see a scene between Schroeder and the president. I can't remember the president's name. It's Gene. And basically Schroeder confronts Gene and says, "You're trying to kill me." He doesn't know that Big Mike's done this to him.
Yeah.
And Gene doesn't really help himself because he doesn't really deny it.
No.
Well, he does, but he denies it in a way that says, "Yes, I definitely did this." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, it's so creepy.
I mean, Gene is like not a likable character one bit. Like, he's just really like he's just snobbish, sinister.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't seem.
And he was like, "Oh, I decorate my house with like all the artifacts I bring back from
Himalayan furniture in it or something like that." Yeah.
But Gene's very adamant that it's the Petries that have got to go. They're the problem. They're causing a disturbance, and that's what's causing the problem for everybody else. And this is interspersed with Mulder and Scully making a plan also, because Mulder believes that they're coming through the ground under the grass. He's found like spots in the yard where it's like empty. This is where the methane theory comes in. But Scully's basically saying, well, the samples weren't anything. Methane might cause like the ground to push the ground around so that there is like sort of holes underneath. Maybe this is just a coincidence. But Mulder kind of has an idea, and he's seen it himself now, and he basically thinks it's something that's from the ground. And
it's like burrowing between the houses, and that's how it transports.
Yeah, and that's where he says, well, it's built on top of a landfill, so that's probably the reason why. Mulder believes that the owners from the last owners will have been dragged under the ground by this monster. Yeah. So he needs to figure out a way how to dig them up without giving away his cover. And we get a long sort of like a thinking glance to the sky and a hard cut to the next morning. Him deciding he wants a pool in his front garden.
Well, he says it's not a swimming pool; it's a
reflecting pool. It's going to look lovely.
Because he's like even said, "Oh, I've looked through the rules and regulations. There's nothing about I can't have a reflecting pool."
As he like he's in a digger and he just digs the ground up. Yeah. And the neighbours are horrified.
Yeah. Because it's the woman who was like helping him move in. She's just gone.
She's crying, like literally crying in the street of like what's going on. You gotta tell him. You gotta stop him. They don't find a body, but they do find the whirligig that caused the problem in the first place. And so Mulder says we need to go deeper. We need to keep going. And he also has a look at this whirligig, and it's got Gene's company name on it.
Yeah, I can't remember. What is it? Plan 9 or something like that?
I can't remember. But basically tracks it back to this is a gift that was given to the Kleins, and it was given by Gene. So now it's sort of like that he can put it together that this was given to sort of put him out of the mould.
Was his company actually called Plan 9?
I've got no idea. I didn't make it.
I'm sure it was, or something along those lines. And now I'm wondering, is that a reference to that Plan 9 from Outer Space film? It's like a really old 50s film that's like, everyone says it's the worst film ever made or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wonder if it's like a reference, just like a little tongue-in-cheek like reference to that. But anyway, yeah.
I've just read my notes, and I think I got things a little bit mixed up.
Oh, why is that?
Because I think Big Mike comes in now. But it's fine. I
mean, he came in earlier. I think he did come in earlier.
Am I right?
I thought so, yeah. I thought he was at that point.
Listen, we can't be expected to remember everything.
On a programme that we're reviewing.
Listen, I'm going to say it right now. You get the main points of the episode. We didn't promise to put them in order.
We just fill it in. We add context.
Connect the dots yourself. Do some work yourself. That's what I say to our fans. I'm not here to put this in order for you. So we end with Mulder and Scully arriving in the house. Yeah, I think this is the place where Mike comes in.
I'm sure it was in the middle, but anyway, yeah, we'll carry on. Yeah,
because this is the thing when Gene is talking to Schroeder, Schroeder still thinks, and we as the audience still think it was Gene that cut his light.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, it was Big Mike, and that's not revealed until the end, is it?
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I think, because I put down here, we find out that Big Mike has cut did the bulb himself, but he didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. We're getting there. It's a bit of a chaotic end to this episode. We see it's shot between Mulder going to find Gene and confront him, and inevitably arrests him, basically.
Yeah.
Very strong in his convictions that this is you that's done this, and also says, he basically goes on to say that not only is Gene responsible for the client's murder via giving them like ugly stuff to put in his garden, he also thinks that Gene was responsible for this monster in the first place.
Yeah.
He thinks that he brought this back with him one way. He didn't know what he was bringing back, but now that he does, he can't control it.
Yeah. It's sort of what does he call it now? It's a
they call it a tulpa, which is a Tibetan thought form.
Yeah.
I
I googled this because I was like, oh, this sounds familiar to something in Supernatural, but I googled it, and it's like quite a well documented thing in like I can't remember what the religion was, but like it's not an evil spirit, but it's literally a thought that you can bring to life and stuff like that.
which would make sense for Gene because he was so conscious of like keeping compliance in this community. So if his thought is that, and it's just gone rogue because he thought it appeared from the ground, from the landfill underneath, and then this thing's idea of carrying out his thought plan was murder anybody who doesn't comply.
Yeah.
Well, Gene can't do anything about that. He can't control it. So yeah, we find this all out, and Mulder does arrest him. Meanwhile, Scully is with Big Mike going through that sort of altercation with the monster. And we see Mulder take Gene back to their house, goes to find Scully, cuffs him to the mailbox, goes to find Scully and helps her out of the closet. And Scully lets him know that, oh my, I saw what was going on.
Yeah, now you say it, now it is.
It does make it, because there's two very similar scenes.
Yeah.
And I thought there was mixed up, because I'm pretty sure Scully does find someone in the house.
Yeah.
But yeah, it all culminates in Mulder managing to confront this thing, and we see this thing come from the ground and take Gene, who's tied to the letterbox, and then goes to confront Mulder, where Mulder bravely just stands in front of it and just sort of is going to head to head with this thing.
Yeah.
But then it collapses, and we get to see a mound of dirt outside.
Yeah, exactly.
Which we later find out is because it's killed the person who gave it life.
Yeah, and
there's no more thought anymore.
Yeah, it just disappears, yeah.
It does end quite abruptly after that.
I thought that. The ending was a bit weird, because it really does just wrap up at a fairly quick pace, to be honest.
Yeah, well, there's not much more after that. Like, that is basically the end, where we see Scully come out, and there's this big mound of dirt, and we get like a little monologue saying everyone came out against Gene and said he was responsible for all the disappearances, but no one would come out against this monster, and basically they all sort of closed ranks. And like I was like, okay, that's fine, but like you just let this community keep going. Like it just feels a little bit weird, but
yeah.
What did you think of the episode as a whole?
Sorry if you can hear the cat in the background, by the way, eating.
She has been a nightmare the entire episode.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm sure some things are going to get cut out. I'm sure some things will be left in. The amount of noise this cat has made for this entire episode.
And usually she just sits there and is asleep, so I don't know what's happened. But anyway, what do I think of the episode? I really like this. I think the ending, if I'll be completely honest, did bring it down a few points. Because I was thinking, this is going to be like quite a high up episode, but the ending, I kind of felt like it was a bit rushed, and the explanation was kind of just like, you kind of just about get an explanation for what it is. I found, but that aside, I thought that the setting was really interesting. The themes that it was trying to say of, like, how there's these like parallels between like acceptance of a tribe and these like suburban.
Yeah,
like,
I really
norms.
like that.
I really like that. And it was funny as well, just really funny. Like the interplay between Mulder and Scully was just really well done in this.
Yeah, I didn't really go into like, because I'm always very conscious when we're reviewing funny episodes. I'm always very conscious that we won't do it justice by repeating the jokes that are told in the episode.
Exactly.
And so it's hard to sort of get across how that is a part of the episode. But it was very funny.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of little moments and little nuances between the characters that was just very funny, and not even like ha funny. Like a lot of the time, in just a light-hearted, makes you smile kind of way.
There was a lot of like chuckling, and it wasn't like there's not like a lot of out and out jokes, but like like all the way through it, there's like little like conversations they're having. Like I said, the sandwich line I thought was hilarious. There's that, and when Mulder's trying to do anything to like say, "Oh, do you want to come to bed?" and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's just classic Mulder being like a bit of a sleaze. Like not in like. He's not like what was the word? I'm trying.
It's not like pervy.
Yeah, it's not like aggressively.
No,
like,
it's
just like
tongue in cheek.
Yeah. He's like just him joking, but I really like the sort of interplay between the two of them. Anyway, it was good.
I very much feel the same way. I really enjoyed this episode. I thought this was a lot of fun. I mean, we mentioned about what was the episode with the water monster?
Aguamala.
Yeah. Like, this is what I like.
Yeah.
And this is the palate cleanse, I think. This is what it probably should have been. Because, and the interesting thing about this episode was it does mention in this episode about, like, their life after all the big events over the past 5-6 episodes.
Yeah, that's the thing. There was a tweet, it's just popped into my head. There was a tweet, they were talking about Aguamala, about how it's really jarring that there's all this like stuff that's happened in the previous episodes, and then Aguamala is just them just like dealing with a water monster. Whereas this, it's like they bring it up. So like A.D. Skinner, they mention that he's back in charge. They're on the X-Files again.
Yeah. It doesn't like hide the fact that is it weird that they're back to normal cases? They bring it up and say, yeah, it is a bit weird, and that's why Mulder's a little bit like blasé about it.
Yeah, it was Jen Shep who did that tweet, by the way. I just quickly found it. But yeah, it was. It sort of works into it while being it works in the past whilst also being a standalone episodes, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I think this would have worked really well as that sort of palate cleanser. And yeah, I just as a final thought, I love episodes like this because I feel like it just gives Mulder and Scully, or Duchovny and Anderson, the chance to really let their character shine through, and we get to see. Don't get me wrong, I love seeing how they deal with situations and like the deep, like potential romance and whatnot. But my favorite thing, I want to see how Mulder and Scully react to going for takeout.
Yes,
or
exactly,
you know what I mean, or like both being stopped at a red light. I don't know, like just like the little
the
things in
normal
life.
things. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
That's what I want to see. I want to see how they react to that and how what their day-to-day life would be like, and this is the closest we've got to that. So that was a lot of fun.
You want to skip ahead to their married life? Part of it.
When they're retired, that's what I want. I just want to see what their Saturdays and Sundays are like. That's what I want to see.
Maybe like maybe that's what season 10 and 11 was
that'd
about.
be
Maybe
good.
they brought it back and it's just them two
Watching
retired.
telly.
Yeah. I mean, I did see one of the screenshots and it didn't look like them just sat looking at them. But well, who knows? And there we go. Shell ends up on her.
She did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Luke's production notes.
Daniel Arkin, a first-year staff writer for the show, was inspired to write Arcadia based on an incident that had occurred several years prior. In 1991, he had moved into an uptight, planned community in Greenwich Village.
We called that. No, this looks like we've read the production notes before recording the episode. Actually, you have. This is you. You've stole this.
I wrote a note down anyway saying, this guy sounds like he's had like
fair enough. I believe you.
Many of us wouldn't. Now, I genuinely watching it, I was like, this feels like somebody's had like a neighbour issue.
Yeah,
and they wrote this
for
about
sure.
it. But Unfortunately, his movers showed up late, forcing him to begin unloading his belongings in the later part of the evening. Because Arkin had neglected to read the community's 300-page-long covenants, conditions, and restrictions, he was later shocked to discover that the complex had fined him $1,000 for moving in after the approved hours. The incident stuck in Arkin's mind, and when he was tasked with writing a story for the X-Files, he immediately jumped to the frightening reality of planned communities.
That is it. Honestly, that's insane.
Yeah.
$1,000.
That's mad. Like just for something as silly as like a late moving. Or something.
Yeah, no. I would not be happy with that.
The series went through. The story went through many variations, and when Arkin wrote his first draft, the main antagonist was simply a man who served as a metaphorical bogeyman. After series creator Chris Carter suggested that Arkin replace that monster with that human with an actual monster, he quickly rewrote his story to include elements of the Tulpa myth.
I think that worked really well as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those where it's like it's something that exists, but not. You don't really hear people talking about it. No. So yeah.
You can, and that's good as well because you can put your own spin on things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it's not like with vampires or something like that. You kind of have the certain rules.
Yes,
and stuff
exactly.
Like that. You can change them, but you know what I mean. Like that's when people that's not a vampire.
Yeah.
I always remember with 28 Days Later when the zombies ran. They're like, they ain't zombies. They're running. It's like it doesn't matter. Anyway, the idea to marry Mulder and Scully came from a writers' meeting, as everyone felt it would be a convincing way for Mulder and Scully to go undercover.
Yeah, again, the best part of the episode for me is the idea of them going undercover as a married couple.
Yeah, and really interesting that, like way to get them undercover as well. Yeah. So, yeah. Abraham Ben-Ruba, noted at the time for his work as Jerry Markovic on the NBC hospital drama ER, was cast by Rick Milliken to play Big Mike. So Big Mike was an ER guy, apparently.
Oh, okay.
The NBC production staff were hesitant to allow him to appear on the show, given his tight production schedule. But as Milliken later explained, there was a small window, he had a few days off, and we were able to squeeze him in. Cherry Montesano Medcalf, the makeup department head for the X-Files, was responsible for making Ben-Ruba appear mauled and bloody. Applying the necessary makeup and prosthetics took 4 hours, and Ben-Ruba wore his makeup for almost 12 hours straight.
Bloody hell, I mean...
Dedicated for
I was going to say, it doesn't feel necessary. It looked great.
Yeah.
Like, I like the way his eye, like, it looked like his eye had, like, sort of swollen up. But, like, I don't know how necessary it was that he needed to be, like, that bloodied up.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that I want to know from that as well is where he hid, where he went to. Did he hide in the sewers, or I don't know what happened?
That's a good question, actually. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah. They never really explain that, but it's kind of one of those. It seems to happen all so quickly, you don't have time to think about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Costume designer Christine Peters was tasked with designing the outfits for Mulder and Scully. Mulder's outfit was composed largely of Lacoste Izod alligator shirts, Dockers, Bast Weegians, and Scully's outfits were jeans and a sweatshirt, or khakis and sneakers. Peters noted that Scully's outfits was harder to design because Scully's character has a look that she doesn't want to give up.
Yeah.
I felt like Scully's kind of felt like an extension of her personality. They both did, really.
Yeah.
Mulder was very...
Well, it works. It works for the episode as well because Scully is very... Not hesitant to go undercover, but like she's very hesitant to buy in as much as Mulder does to the play.
This character, whereas Mulder is happy to just be like...
go all in. He goes 110% for sure.
Yeah. Do you want to join in? Unbelievable. The show's production crew had a difficult time designing the monster, which later earned a variety of colourful nicknames courtesy of the show's production staff, including Gumby on Steroids, Mr. Butterworth, Fecal Fred, and my favourite, the Shit Monster.
Well, I when I was watching it with Jem, we both said the garbage monster, because that's what we thought it was, basically.
Yeah. Assistant director Bruce Carter explained that the two choices were either to make a creature that had grown muscles and sinew through the force of Gene Gogolak, that was his name, Gene Gogolak's personality, or make a more conventional garbage creature covered in banana peels and coffee grounds, which worked, I think.
Yeah, it looked really good.
Makeup supervisor John Vulich eventually designed a monster outfit that was effectively a foam rubber suit made of urethane. Shredded rubber was then attached to the suit, which was then submerged in gunk to create the garbage effect. Despite all this work, the final episode does not contain many shots of the monster, as most of its scenes were cut during the editing phase.
Oh, okay. Interesting that they would I can't imagine them planning to show more than they did, because I think it worked at how much you didn't see it.
It's kind of like that Jaws effect anyway. You see
very
less.
much so. Very much so.
It's more interesting, I think.
Especially when I always thought this with do you remember the film Cloverfield?
Yeah.
Like towards the end of the film, you do get a better shot of it, but especially with creatures that are weird and like not quite normal, because your brain, when it sees them, can't quite like if it's a human monster. When your brain sees them, that's it. You can see it and it's done.
Exactly.
When it's something weird and something that you're not used to, even though you get a glimpse of it, your brain can't quite wrap your head around it. And I felt the same with this monster, because you couldn't really, even when you saw it, you couldn't really get a good look at it. Like, seeing it for a second doesn't give you any more clarification as to what it is. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah.
It stinks.
Welcome to the Critic's Files.
It's a tough one to rate. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to give it an 8.
An 8. I gave it the same, an 8.
Spot on 8, yeah. I thought it was a really good episode. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I think fun is the best way to describe this episode.
That's where I felt with this, that it was just a fun episode. So yeah, it's not like groundbreaking, but it was a lot of fun to watch. I'd watch it again. So, IMDb with 3,523 votes gave it an 8.6. So
I can see that. That's
in the
fair.
ballpark. Yeah,
that's definitely fair. I thought just a very good episode. Well, I guess that's basically everything for this week. We will be looking at what the episode next week is called Alpha, I believe.
Yeah.
So join us next week for episode 16, where we look at Alpha. How many episodes are in this season?
22, I think.
22.
So we're not
okay.
far off the end.
Yeah. So into the final stretch. I wonder whether there's going to be. I mean, I'm just basically planning off on air at this point, but I wonder whether there's going to be a big mythology end to the season, especially with having the mid-season so mythology heavy. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know anything of what happens in it, but I saw the title and something that makes me think it is going to be a mythology episode.
Okay.
Do you want to know, or do you want it to be secret?
I mean, the title's a title. I'm going to see the title. Go on.
The title's called Biogenesis.
Yeah, it sounds mythology-based. I mean, let's be honest, it was going to be mythology-based anyway, because it always is, the final one starts. Yeah. But I did wonder, because they've been so heavy on the mythology in the mid-season, I wondered whether it would be, something different. But it's going to be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to them. Looking forward to next week's episode, Alpha. Have you got anything else to add for this week?
I've not. Just, keep your gardens in check, just in case.
Just in case. And definitely keep your cats in check.
Yeah.
Because this episode's taken twice as long to record.
Final word, Shel? Huh?
Yeah, now you're quiet.
No, yeah. You keep it shut.